closer, going faster than a roller coaster. Love like yours will surely come my way. I hate, hate. Love like yours will surely come my way.
Verizon knows how to build unlimited right. Start with America's most awarded network.
I'm on my phone 24/7.
Then, for the first time ever, give families more entertainment with Disney Plus, Hulu, and ESPN Plus, now all included.
We're a big soccer family.
Handmaid's Tale. I love Frozen.
Then give families plans to mix and match, so you only pay for what you need.
You get so much more than this, a great network.
With plans starting at just $35. The network more people rely on gives you more. This is unlimited built right, only on Verizon.
Welcome to PaleyFest New York. We'd like to thank our official card, Citi, and our official sponsor, Verizon. I'm Damian Holbrook, senior writer for TV Guide magazine. We are thrilled to talk about the final season of Supernatural, concluding on Thursday, November 19th, after an amazing and exciting 15-year run, the longest in the history of the CW. Joining us are showrunners Andrew Dabb and Robert Singer, along with cast members Misha Collins and Alexander Calvert, and of course, the Winchester brothers themselves, Jared Padalecki and Jensen Ackles. Guys, welcome. How's it going?
Great.
Okay, so first off, congratulations. This is monumental, what you have done across the board. It's just so cool to have gotten to see where the show started and where it is headed. When you started this, you know, your original home, the WB network, no longer here. Social media did not exist. Streaming, definitely not a thing. Fandoms, they were not fighting then. You guys, you've outlasted more shows than demons that you have killed. I think only It's Always Sunny and Grey's Anatomy, which started in 2005, are still with us. And It's Always Sunny only does like 10 episodes a season. So for you guys, before we get started into the meat and potato stuff, I want to ask, how are you doing now that it is all over?
I start, yeah. You know, I'm not going to be shy and admit it. There were a lot of tears leading up to coming back to film what we knew would be the final 2 episodes of the series. You know, I'd read the scripts and I think about this and that, and then we were up there, and it seems like every day or every set, it was like, this is the last day on this location, or this is the last time we're working with this person. And it's been a week now. We finished filming a week ago today. And I've been smiling a lot. Like I feel like, and I think Jensen and I talked about this with each other. I've been really happy, man. I've been really proud of, now that it's in hindsight, which feels really weird to say, I've been able to kind of look at it more objectively, as opposed to, you know, during the show, during the 15 years, it was like, well, I still have work to do. Like, I got to keep on my game. I got to, you know, keep sharp. And that was just like, that was a cool thing. Like, now I kind of want to talk about Supernatural and talk about the show, because I can talk about it as an outsider now. I mean, we're all outsiders now, other than those who are editing. But yeah, it seems like it's bringing back only good memories for me.
There was a lot of tears in your Instagram. Jensen didn't look exactly as emotional, but Jensen, how did you handle your last day?
I'll say this: the final day on our sound stages was the Friday previous to our last 3 days, and that was really the big, heavy, emotional scene of the episode and of the season and of the series, I think. And we did that, and we filmed that on our last day at our sound stages. And so I really feel like that was kind of the emotional, that embodied the emotional good, you know, kind of goodbye to our home. It was, you know, Jared and I said, this is kind of like, you know, putting these brothers and these characters away, you know, putting them like just, it's like, this is it, because this is the last real time that we're going to have this kind of an emotional moment to this degree. And so I kind of felt like that was the last song in a huge heavy rock concert. And then we came back for 3 more days on the road, and that to me felt like an encore, that we were all able to come back out and do our thing. And the very final moment, the very final day, you know, and you'll see standing on a bridge, an indie bridge somewhere, somehow, we all kind of had a real beautiful moment of, and it was like Jared said, it was less sad and it was more proud. It was kind of happy tears. It was that feeling you get when you know you've done something that you'll be proud of for the rest of your life.
Misha and Alexander, how were your series wraps?
It's been an unusual conclusion to a series because we have been drawing it out because of the pandemic. Like, we were almost at the end, and then we had to take this long break from one another and then come back to finish it. So it feels like it's been a little bit staggered, and kind of drawn out. And for me, I feel like I did my kind of mourning of the end of the show leading up to when we had to stop production. And it's been sad and hard. I mean, honestly, I don't feel like these guys at all. I feel like, oh, this is like the end of a really important seminal chapter in my life. And I already miss all of these faces and miss showing up at work and laughing so hard my 6-pack abs get developed. It's Jared, don't laugh like that.
I was laughing at something else.
I mean, I'm grateful for this chapter in my life, but I'm very much sad to be moving on from it.
Yeah. And Alex, how was that ending for you?
So for me wrapping this up, I keep expecting that we're all going to be back to work on Monday, and that there's going to be a new call sheet, and that I'm potentially waking up every day late for work to get harassed on set. So still coming to terms with it.
That's called PTSD.
That's exactly.
Oh, I've heard of that. Yeah, I think that's my therapist is. Yeah, I've heard of a couple of these terms. It's good.
Yeah. So Robert and Andrew, with the shutdown, when you had to hit pause on those last 2 episodes, did you get to use that time to kind of like really fine tune what you had originally planned? Like, how much work actually went into those final scripts during the shutdown?
Very little. We were happy with the scripts. We also got kicked out of our office, so there wasn't a lot we could do in the office. No, we had these scripts, as we did for 15 years on Supernatural, pretty much well in advance. We were happy with them, and we were just waiting to be able to shoot.
Yeah, I would say the same thing. I mean, obviously, because of COVID and the new way we're shooting, certain things, certain cosmetic things had to be changed a little bit, but where we were going never changed. And so, no, we were really happy with the scripts, and so no, we didn't have to go in and blow anything up.
Did the new COVID precautions that you have to institute on set, did they change how things worked out for you guys?
Yeah, they. We had certain COVID restrictions, how many extras you could have in a scene, which in the finale affected my shooting a little bit, maybe the scope of a shot or what lens I would use. But the last episode is really about the guys, and it's a very sort of intimate episode. We hope the fans like it, but we did an extra day. We usually do 8 days. We did 9 days on the finale. But I thought things went pretty smoothly. I think Jared and Jensen will agree with that.
I agree. Yeah, they were different. They were certainly different as far as shooting. And we all kind of realized that, but it did go smoothly. I think that I kind of said this prior. It seemed like the cast and the crew all kind of took further precautions than they were required to. You know, like I know my friend in stand-in wasn't going out on weekends. He's like, yeah, you know, I'll wait a couple months. I don't want to be the guy that gets this production shut down, and then possibly gets other Warner Brothers production shut down. So I know a lot of the crew was kind of laying low for that last 4 weeks of shooting. And it felt like it went really smoothly on set, especially at our studios. It was, you know, it was all taped off, and I know Jim Michaels and I'm sure Bob and Dab also did a lot of kind of the legwork in that 4.5 month, 5 month break to make sure that everything was set up to where, you know, time was of the essence. It's not like we have reshoots next week. We'd have to re-quarantine. It's not like we can go pick it up, you know, at the beginning of season 16. So we really had to be efficient. And it certainly felt like when I got to set on day one, I was like, oh, this is different, but this is absolutely efficient. Like if it was my first day on a set and they just told me this was the way to do it, it would have felt like any other day on set prior to COVID. So I certainly have no complaints.
Yeah, it was doable. It was certainly doable. And I think that was everybody's, you know, we were concerned of is this going to affect the quality of the product that we're making? And I don't think it did. It was certainly an adjustment. You know, it's and it's certainly just socially debilitating because you can't see the faces of the people that you're working with anymore, and you can't, you know, you can't have that social interaction that I think really sets a tone on set. So that'll be interesting to see how that's kind of navigated with new shows or with, you know, returning shows and stuff. Luckily, there's such a bond, I think, with the crew and the cast on this particular set that we were able to adjust fairly well and pivot to what we needed to be doing. And I think I don't think that the product suffered at all. But it will be interesting to see what the new norm looks like moving forward.
Yeah, socially it was interesting. Ackles and I kind of talked about this. You know, we've known our crew for many, many years, some of them for 15 plus years. But now, you know, when it was like, okay, the boys are going back to their trailers to get changed for the next scene, it felt like we were some of those asshole actors who say like, hey, tell the crew not to look at us in the eyes. Because we'd leave stage and like they would run, like the Red Sea, they would part and we're like, hey, okay. Like it felt like this must be what life as David Caruso feels like or something. For Misha, yeah, exactly.
For Misha.
As soon as we were anywhere, it was like exploding dots, like, you know, shining a flashlight on cockroaches, and they all just dispersed. I was like, man, they really don't like us. They're finally letting us know.
There's also this announcement, like when we walk off, it's like, here comes first team! And it was a bit like, shame. Everybody like parted ways, and I was like, oh, I feel like a leper right now. This is...
What a way to go out.
Yeah. The shoot beds. Yeah.
Now, for the actors, how do you guys feel about where your characters land in the finale?
I couldn't be happier. Without getting into detail, I've cared about this storyline. I guess it came to my whatever house in Los Angeles, probably January 2005, among, you know, a dozen pilot scripts. So I've kind of known about this project and cared about it since then, and I've especially cared about it since being cast in February of 2005 and filming with Ackles. And so it's been a big part of my life, and I'd be lying if I tried to posit that I hadn't thought many times about how I want this to end up, where I want Sam and Dean. I've even kind of said in interviews, like, I think it should be like this. I think it should be like that. I think this and that. And I guess I could have seen it ending a slew of different ways, but now that it's all said and done and we've called that's a wrap on our final day, I couldn't be more pleased with the way it turned out. Kudos to the writers.
Yeah, I think it's a fantastic way for this show to wrap up. You know, and this is, you know, not a secret. I had my reservations about when I first heard the idea, and you know, you realize, for me, I just realized I'm so close to the story and so close to these characters that, you know, maybe I had my own ideas of how it was going to look, and I didn't necessarily. And the more that I thought about it, and the more that I, you know, mulled over all the different possibilities of what could have happened, or what could happen and maybe what should happen, it's interesting to think that I kept coming back to what ended up happening.
So I reached out to Eric Kripke and asked him for a little bit, just if he had anything to say, and he sent a message that read in part, when I sat you guys down on episode 2 and said that this story starts and ends with you, and even more than that, you two have to be the leaders of all of Supernatural. It says, not only did you rise to that challenge, you have exceeded it in every way. Not only did you give amazing performances as Sam and Dean, you are even better people. The good that has come out of Supernatural is the thing I am most proud of. I know that the Supernatural family will always be there, so I know this isn't goodbye. So I want to talk about now the show's fandom, the family, the Supernatural family that has been with you guys since the beginning, as has Robert. Robert, you have watched this Supernatural family grow and change, and watched the guys turn their platform into a force for good. So much so that Robert and Andrew and all the writers that have worked on this show, you have actually made the fans a force within the show. So talk to me about when you first started to notice that this fandom was something that could work with you.
Well, Andrew's a little different than me because I don't really get on social media and aren't following, because they'll all have suggestions of where the show should go, which I try to ignore because we just try to do the best stories we can. And not that they don't have great points, but it's if you're trying to please everybody, you can't please anybody.
You got to tell the story. You got to tell your story about the 2 letters. About the
okay. I don't know. It was about 5 years ago, and we came back after wrapping a season, and came into the office for the new season, and I had 2 letters on my desk from fans, and I opened one letter, and it said, this year was totally Sam-centric. There wasn't enough Dean. If you don't give Dean more to do, then I'm not going to watch anymore. I went, oh, okay. And then I opened the next letter, and it said, this last season was totally Dean-centric. You didn't give enough to Sam, and if you don't give more to Sam, I'm not going to watch anymore. And I said to myself, I think we're doing something right. So, because
he also said, I think, why are Jensen and Jared sending me letters?
That's what I was thinking. I was assuming these were from them.
Yeah, Bob. Come on, you got to give me more credit than that. I used way more words.
Right. So that's when you started to notice that the fandom was on board. Andrew, first job out of the park, you get this job.
Mm-hmm.
The same year that Misha starts.
Yeah, I mean, there's, you have good luck and bad luck in life, I guess you could say.
That was low-hanging fruit.
Yeah, that was
a freebie.
Yeah, I started on the show in season 4, and I remember being in the writer's room. I'd been in Los Angeles for a very limited amount of time. And Eric Kripke walks in the writer's room, and we're all there, and he's like, look, guys, this is the last season of the show. It's been a good run. We barely got through the first 3. We're going to hit 80. That's the indication. Like, it's going to be great. And so, sorry to say it, but, be ready to look for another job. And I'm like, I have to look for another job. And 12 years later, I actually have to. So it did come through eventually, but it just took a while.
Right. Did you or Misha, did either of you expect to still be here at the finish line?
We didn't think the finish line was going to be this far from the start line. Yeah. So I think no, and it would have been insanely egotistical and deluded to think that this was going to run for so long. But I remember thinking, like, we were at the 100th episode party. And it was like, oh my God, we made it to 100 episodes. And then someone joked like, we'll see you at the 200th episode party. And everyone was like, oh, come on. That's a stupid joke. 200th episode party. Peter Roth is like, we'll see you at the 300th episode party. We were like, no, we won't, because nothing lasts that long.
And then I think this year it was like, hey, we'll see you all at the series wrap party. And then COVID spoke.
And then there was the party.
Someone was finally wrong.
Right. Alexander, when you joined the show, like you said, 20% of the show, but you've added so much more to the series, and you've brought so much, especially this last season. You have been killing it. It has been such a delight to watch this character. I want that to be a spinoff. I want him to go be on Lucifer. I think it would be phenomenal. But when you came into this, did anyone warn you about working with these guys? Because you basically assumed the mantle of whipping boy from Misha.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, listen, so I'm from Canada. I'm from Vancouver. These guys have an amazing reputation throughout the city with all these other actors. And people are genuinely thrilled to work with these guys. And I have to say, it's been just awful. So my personal experience was much different than the rest of the town love for these guys in the show. Yeah, I'll say that being Misha 2.0 was a little more difficult than I expected. Because I thought this show would run forever. I thought, you know, by season 20, I'd be wearing a trench coat and, you know, doing whatever it is Misha has been doing. So, you know.
Misha, was there a ritualistic burning of a trench coat when you wrapped?
No, those things are gold.
Misha,
already on eBay.
Misha, there was.
So for Andrew and Robert, how did you approach, first of all, I'm assuming you probably got very, very drunk as soon as you found out that you needed to bring this in for a landing. But how do you approach wrapping up 15 years?
Oh, so you read the final scripts?
There's really just a series of drawings at this point.
Blah, blah.
Well, it wasn't like we didn't know it was coming, because it was really sort of a community decision to go out while we still had our fastball. So we knew the challenge we had in front of us, but I think we came to that where we wanted to go pretty quickly in our meetings. And Andrew and I, for me, it's always been this way with Eric and Sarah and Jeremy. I think my longest stint, actually, maybe with Andrew. But we've always been simpatico and always been on the same page. Yeah, it wasn't, I think once we arrived at where we wanted to go, we were just going to go full speed ahead. We liked what we came up with.
Alex, when you came in, who did take you under their wing?
I kind of feel like I got thrown on this show. I was right away naked, so thank you to the writers. That was, traumatizing to begin with. I don't know. I think my story, which I'll share, would be, if I was taken under the wing, I think I'm fairly professional. But I think by the fall of the first season, Jensen and Jared, they were like, "You're like, come have dinner with us." I was like, okay. And at the end of the meal, I, of course, try to pay some of the bill. And that was when Jared cut my credit card in half. And that's when I knew that I was like, okay, I might have a future on the show.
Right.
Nice. He hates me. He really hates me.
No, I was like, he's like, it's like, oh, that's very kind of him. I was like, this is clearly useless now. So I guess I'll have to keep working on the show to pay my bills.
It was either he had a future on the show or he had a lawsuit available to him.
Yeah.
It's a win-win.
The lawsuit's coming. Yeah.
And Misha, when did you first feel at home on the show?
You mean, did I ever feel at home? It's funny, Alex. We haven't exchanged these stories, but Jared tore my credit card in half my first year on the show, and then I was like, "I'm going to tear your credit card in half, you big jerk," which I did, but it was harder because his was like this sheet of platinum, and then he was like, "Ha ha, joke's on you." My credit card will have someone is going to get on a plane tomorrow morning at dawn and fly a new credit card on a gold platter to me. You're going to have to wait a week to get your replacement.
I think isn't it a button on his watch and some guy repels from the ceiling and just
Mm-hmm.
right back up.
Service. Yeah.
What he's hiding under the beanies.
He's always.
Little man with credit cards for him.
That's always what it is.
So for a show that is fronted by four dudes, you guys have always featured these female characters that are awesome, but can also kick all of your asses. You guys have had it handed to you by a series of female characters. Robert and Andrew, did you guys realize that you've basically built a stable of female characters who made these guys better at their jobs?
Yeah, no, I think that was, as we kind of go through and then, with characters, when you introduce a character for one episode, you never quite know who's going to work and who isn't. And we have in the past been like, well, this character is going to be great and they're going to be around for 6 episodes and do X, Y, and Z. And then you see the performance, you're like, yeah, they got to die. And then there are other times where people really work. And I think you're looking at people, there are people who are supposed to be here for one episode that lasted for a long time. Like Jodie Mills is a really good example of that. Donna Hanscom's character was kind of a comic relief character who ended up having a whole life of her own. And so you're just kind of looking for what works. And we've had really good fortune to have these really great actresses come in who can act as, nice kind of counterweights and pivot points to our guys and bring some great energy. But also they're not, this is not a show that rewards wilting violets. Let's put it that way. And they've all got a lot of skills and a lot of attitude. And I think it does bring a dimension to the show and a dimension to these characters. It's really cool.
So because there was someone, it was Wayward Ellie. She posted, to the women of Supernatural, thank you for making me feel seen, empowered, inspired, and loved. Y'all mean the absolute world to me, and I'm so grateful for you and your words. You continue to inspire and empower me every single day. # thank you, Supernatural. So it's really cool to have seen that, you have introduced just an entire world of characters that connected with your fans and your viewers. So you guys, you had a beautiful scene at the end of Atomic Monsters this season. It's Sam and Dean driving in the car at the end of the episode, and you talk about what we do still matters, which is such a beautiful sentiment, because the way you're approaching a lot of what we're seeing in the end is how this family is really struggling with despair, with conflict, with confusion, with loss. And what we do still matters is almost as prophetic as the we've got work to do when it comes to this show, because what you do matters so much on screen and off screen. So let's talk about that now. So many people have gotten involved and gotten help from the charities and the work that you guys have spearheaded. Misha, your Random Acts situation, last year you guys banded together and raised $280,000 for hurricane relief. When you look at your jobs, because these are jobs, what was it?
They were jobs.
They were jobs. What is it about you guys that made you realize, like, we can help people? Where did that start?
I think that came from the fans. I mean, this fandom has this incredible devotion and creative energy and empathy and inherent kindness that we have just been piggybacking on. I know that the first time I did any kind of charitable thing with the fans was when there was an earthquake in Haiti, and I just posted. I spent all of 5 minutes putting together a UNICEF donation page, and within 24 hours there was $30,000 that had come in, and it was like, oh wow, there's something here. Like, these people care, and this moniker of the Supernatural family, I think, is meaningful. Like, these people are bonding together like a family and trying to be a force for good in the world, which is the frankly underlying mythology of the show. I think, we're fighting monsters. We're trying to make the world a better place. And that seems to be bringing in a self-selecting audience of people who feel the same way about their role in the world. And I think there's something, I think there's something to the combination of the storytelling and this audience the magic ingredients that has allowed that to happen.
Yeah, I agree.
The at Chris Six Chaos posted, I started watching Supernatural as a 15-year-old with undiagnosed PTSD who treated mental health like a failed DIY experiment. This show helped me escape. I'm now a 30-year-old with a beautiful daughter named Charlotte. Charlie for short. Charlie for short. I can't say it enough. Hashtag thank you, Supernatural. That is one of hundreds of tweets that are out there from fans and viewers who see beyond the monsters and the mythologies and all that to where you guys have brought this show. You've opened up your lives. You've shared parts of your lives with fans in a way that a lot of shows don't, which is, it's a beautiful thing. And I can speak for all the journalists who have covered this show and handled this show from the start. The greatest thing about this show is that whenever anyone asks us, what are the guys on Supernatural really like? We don't have to lie. It's awesome. We can actually say they're wonderful. They're lovely. Misha's a monster. The rest of them are lovely. But when did you all feel, as I guess because it's Jared and Jensen, you started it, but when did you really start to like, okay, Misha's now family, Alex is now family, Jim is now family. Like when did you start to feel the family?
Yeah, for me, well, first off, I do want to echo what Misha said about the fandom is really what gave me the confidence, I guess, to go on a limb and say like, hey, let's try and raise money for some things. You almost knew you had a friend there with them. As far as when people independently or individually rather became family, you know, I really do feel with Alex most recently, I remember his first day, remember where we were, remember, you know, the first episode of the next season, and it felt pretty instant. Like it was pretty much like, all right, like he's gonna get his humor and he's hard worker, talented guy. You know, Jim Beaver, again, it was sort of instantaneous. Misha, I'm sure that day will come where, you know, where we're excited to see him. I think the nature of this show, of the filming of it, you know, we're by and large, you know, there's some people that live in Canada and whatnot, but we're all, whether we're away from our families or not, in a foreign country or a foreign city or a foreign state or area of the lower mainland of BC, we're still sacrificing our time, and wonderfully, we're all grateful to do it and humbled by the idea that we get to do it and get paid to do it, but we're still away. So you spend these long hours with these people, and a lot with our crew who, you know, they have year-long contracts or 6-year-long contracts. If it didn't vibe, if they maybe weren't the nicest people, they just kind of found their way elsewhere. Like the people that stuck around, people who stayed with us the longest, are our family, you know, because you're sitting there going like, well, I'm working late, it's cold, it's dark, it's rainy, we're having a great time together. Like I'll do this again tomorrow, and I'll do this again next week and next month and next season if we get one. So it was pretty instantaneous. And I know, again, to Bob and Dab's credit, you know, they're the ones who are casting these guys and gals before we ever get to meet them. So I know there's probably a bit of a weaning out process long before we ever hear their names, where it's like, okay, well, this guy came in and it's noon, but he has sunglasses on inside, and the boys aren't, you know, these Jensen and Jared are gonna rip them apart. And so I know.
I didn't even wear sunglasses, and still.
Yeah, so there were a lot of moving parts, and I know we were all better for
it. Looking back to the beginning, to the end now, this is the city big question. Looking back from the beginning to this final season, what was your all-time favorite moment on the show, on screen or off?
Who wants to?
That's 15 years to unpack.
Yeah. You going, Ackles? I'll
mean,
start. Mine's pretty easy.
You've got a great default answer here.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Obviously, I met and fell in love with my wife in season 4, and that season, for whatever reason, was magical all around. And I'm sure, not least of which, that I fell in love with the person that's now the mother of my children. But I really loved Sam's storyline that season. It seemed like the weather was better than normal. I have this, like, like the halcyon days of 2008, 2009. But that was really special for me. I will say, knowing what I know now, and we've had a similar question before, like, what's your favorite episode? What's your favorite season? I will say that the series finale is my favorite episode of all time. And there were a few moments during the filming of that will go down, obviously Jen takes precedent, because if she watched this and finds out that she's watching our three kids while I'm in a hotel room in Utah, and I don't give her appropriate credit, she'll kill me. Just kidding. But yeah, I think the last, almost like the post-COVID final 4 weeks, there was just something in the air. The whole lead up, Misha talked about it, like the lead up, like come January of 2020, pre-COVID, there was sort of a palpable feeling in the air. It was almost tangible of like, all right, man, like we're all sad, but we're all really happy and realize how fortunate we were to have this experience together, and let's take this home. And it felt like, I remember Ackles and I finished the Seattle Marathon together in 2018 in November. And it was rough, and we trained some together, and neither of us ever in a marathon. And I feel like the final mile, you pass up, like, and we did it for charity, and helped raise money for charity and made some donations as well. But I think it was like you hit the 25-mile marker, and it says 25 miles, 1.2 miles to go. And we had just been on the road for 4 hours, been raining, and it was like, man, it felt like that final mile of like, cool, we're taking this home. You're hurt, you're sore, your legs don't work really well, and you just couldn't be happier with what you've just been able to go through.
Real quick. I mean, again, 15 years. There's a lot to choose from, as far as memories and moments and things that will live in the head forever. And thankfully, we've got Bob Singer, who can recount them more amazingly than anybody. But I would say, I'll echo Jared as far as there's a moment in this final episode that might eke out the number one spot of all time. But again, it's also fresh, so we'll sit with that and marinate in it for a little bit. But there is a moment, you said on or off screen, that I do remember very vividly, and that was the last time we all took the stage at Comic-Con last year. That was because, for a lot of shows, that's the first and only time maybe during the year or during their season that they get to see a fan appreciation live and in person. We fortunately get to do these conventions, and we travel around the country and around the world, and we get to see these fans, and we get to interact with them and stuff. So we get to see that on a different or on a more frequent level. But there's something just really special about that room and about that crowd, and the grandeur of it all. And to go into our we were just starting into our final season, knowing that it was our final season, and to be able to just stand there and kind of take that in was a pretty emotional moment that I will never forget.
It was over a year ago.
I know.
Misha?
I would say that over, like Jensen said, it's 15 years, and there's so many on-screen and off-screen moments that are standouts. But for me, I think there were bookends. Like my character's introduction on the show was epic. My character's conclusion, my last scene on the show, was epic in its own right, and felt like such a satisfying conclusion to that arc. And then I would say those are the on-screen moments, and then I would say the off-screen moments was like literally hundreds of hours of Warner Brothers money that was wasted by us just laughing on set. Like the countless hours that we spent laughing and enjoying the process of being together, and the friendship and camaraderie that we built on the show over those years is for me, deeply meaningful. And
we wouldn't have made it 15 years without that.
No, we wouldn't have made it. No way the show would have lasted if that laughter hadn't carried us through.
Alex?
I mean, I feel a little underqualified answering a question about 15 years when I was born yesterday. But I basically on my last day, I I had a last scene. It was in the Impala, and it was with some of the guys. And for me, I told the crew that like there wasn't a day that I didn't show up on set that I wasn't thankful to be there, and for everybody else's efforts, just like knowing how we went through the mud and the rain, and as you guys did for 15 years, I was just so moved by the kindness and the thoughtfulness of so many people that surround us at our job every day that I was just like really beside myself and emotional. So when you're like, what's the best moment? It's like, I don't know. That for me is just the thing I kind of keep reflecting on, is like the commitment of our crew and our writers and everyone involved in the show from top to bottom, and just how much it meant. Like, obviously as an actor, it's easy to be selfish about like your intentions and what you think about your character and stuff, but just like knowing how many people on the show cared and how many people care worldwide is astounding and overwhelming.
There was somebody at Journeys Wayward also said hashtag thank you Supernatural for reminding so many people they're deeply loved, for teaching so many people to fight, for helping so many people to endure. I know a lot of people ask, like, what did you take from set? We know what some of you got from set. We saw the videos. What are you going to take with you from this experience?
Not a tangible item, but yeah. That's, I hope this doesn't sound like a cop-out. That's difficult to really quantify right now. Here I am a week out. And
wife and children. A wife.
Wife and children.
I think your wife again quickly.
Outside of the obvious, you know, I legitimately have a difficult time trying to parse out what part of the last 15 and a half years was Jared's life and experience and what part was Sam's life and experiences. And not that I think Jared was possessed by Lucifer. Like I can separate that. I had so many formative growth years between age 22 as a single kid, didn't know my head from my ass, to a 38-year-old with a wife and 3 kids. I still don't know my head from my ass, but I feel like I know I've grown a lot, and I think I owe a lot of that to Supernatural. I'll never be able to you know, establish a percentage of what I would have learned without Supernatural and what I learned through and because of, at least in some part, from Supernatural. So I think I learned gratitude. You know, I went through some, you know, probably self-important times early on where I was like, I'm away from my friends and my house and get me out of here. And now I'm just so grateful that through some support from friends and family, kind of kept putting one foot in front of the other. And here I get to talk about this show 15 years. That's meant so much to me. So it's difficult for me to figure it out. I wish I had the words. I'm just really grateful. It's funny to truly feel grateful, you know, and you can't really express it. It's just, I feel so friggin' fortunate.
Yeah.
Sorry. I'd heard that answer before.
He wrote it, as a matter of fact. He wrote it down.
I did, and I'm sick of hearing it again. I'll be brief. What I'm going to take with that's untangible, lifelong lessons, and lifelong friends. I have no doubt that I will know these people for the rest of mine or their lives.
Ditto.
Yeah.
Now it's
just all the important stuff, the kindness that you've experienced from strangers because of the show, the kindness you experienced on set. Just that for me is my favorite. Just love that I think we all have experienced on the show and outside of the show, just because of something that people feel so strongly about. Yeah, gratitude.
Okay, so I need to wrap you, but last question. I always love to. This might be the last time, you know, that you guys are on, hopefully on Zoom, because we can get back to real world. But for the fans that are watching, what do you say to your fans now? Now that it's all done, what do you want to say to them?
Boss, you want to start?
Sure. 15 years is a long time to stay with anything, especially when you get to be my age. and there's a lot of reasons I stayed with the show for 15 years. Everybody who's on this Zoom call is one of them. And as I said at the 200th, that just to answer sort of the question you asked before, that I said that every time I land in Vancouver, I feel like I'm coming home. And I think the fans were sort of a big part of that. We would be just shooting in kind of crazy places, and there would be fans there in the distance watching us. Could go to a convention, and I'm just a producer director, and somebody would see me and they go, "Oh, Bob, can you talk to us? Can you help us?" You know. So really, I think a lot of the energy that went into this show is really motivated by the fans. And I think we all felt it, and I think all felt like we wanted to do the best job possible for as long as possible because of the fans. So that's my takeaway of the fans.
Andrew?
Yeah, I would just echo what Bob said. I mean, I think, the fans have been incredibly devoted to this show and to these guys, and it's, impacted their lives, as some of the comments you've read, but it's also deeply impacted our lives. And hearing those stories and being able to have that effect on people, a positive effect, is just something that is amazing. And I think this show, in a lot of different ways, is the experience, I'll speak for myself, the experience I'm going to be chasing for the rest of my life. You know what I mean? From top to bottom, like Bob and I were talking, as things were winding down and people were going off and getting other jobs and things like that, the joke was that, oh, people are going to greener pastures, but I don't think there is a greener pasture. I think this is as green as it gets. And we're all leaving the field, but I don't know that I'm certainly going to find anything better than this has been as an experience with these guys and with the fans who have been so supportive of us and allowed us to do all the weird and crazy and things we've wanted to do. And it's just been an incredible, incredible experience.
Alex?
Yeah, I mean, what I think has been amazing about this show is most of the time you have an experience filming and it's very one-sided. You make the product and the product goes out. That being said, this has been completely different because there is a dialogue between the product, the show, and the fans. So I don't think it's like a one-sided relationship. I think it's very much, an ongoing relationship that's going to continue way beyond the finale date.
Misha?
I just, this term SBN family, I think has real resonance, and family is forever. And I hope that when the show ends, this community and this fandom and this family carries on.
Boys? Jensen? Jared?
Yeah, it's this fandom is, I think that we are in such a unique position as this show and as this cast to have a real open face-to-face dialogue with a lot of fans on a frequent basis. I just don't know of a lot of casts or shows that get to have that opportunity. So they've really become a part of what we do. It is, I often say that, meeting fans and having interactions with fans and going to these conventions and talking to them and about this common interest that we all have is fuel. And the fact that you can get that inspiration to keep working harder, and you can get that fuel to want to do, to want to wake up at 6 a.m. and get to work to make the best product that you can. That's a unique situation that I don't know that I'll ever have again, or at least certainly not to this capacity. And so for that, I will forever be married to this SPN family. That's just what it is.
Jared?
Yeah. I don't know of any other show in the history of television that the fan support was so critical and crucial in the show's success. So to the fans who are watching this, thank you. I know we as actors and as showrunners and producers get to have our horns tooted quite often, but I hope you realize that we're all over here tooting your horn as well, and I hope you toot your own horn as well with us.
There's a lot of tooting going on.
A lot of
right
tooting. A lot of tooting. Yeah.
But in the 80s, that would mean a whole different thing. But
We have a saying, kind of like supernatural never dies, and the fandom is the only reason that supernatural lived for 15 years, and the fandom is the only way that supernatural will truly never die. So that's kind of a thank you and a shout out to the fans who helped so much more than they realize get us here, and that's what'll keep it going in perpetuity.
Well, listen, I want to congratulate you guys. Again, like I said, this is not just monumental, but it's important. You know, a lot of people just look at it as TV, but what you guys have done and what you've created and what will continue on is important. What you did matters. So congratulations and thank you so much. Thank you also for joining us for PaleyFest New York. Thanks again for the invaluable support of our official card, City, and our official sponsor, Verizon. Be sure to support the Paley Center and consider becoming a Paley member by visiting paleycenter.org. You guys, thank you again so much. Take care, stay well, and we'll see you again. Take care.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.